All right, we're going to continue today with the short history of Izmir in Turkey, as we do, the community of Izmir in Turkey. And we spoke in quite length yesterday about the people there and so on and so forth. We need to understand that Izmir was a very important Torah center in the Middle East, in the Ottoman Empire, and beyond that. Which is very interesting. There was minhagim, the traditions that they had. There were very wealthy people in Izmir, and they supported on those yeshivot that they had there, and in the schools. They had very well-developed school system. Now, many of those rich people, which we said previously, many of these rich people, not only they had a shul which they supported, or yeshiva they supported, many of them would take a group of 10 Talmidei Chachamim, they would sit them in their house, give them food, give them place to eat, place to drink, place to learn, and on top of that would pay them also from their own pocket, just so those people can sit in the house and learn Torah in their house. They were busy making business. They said, at least there will be Torah in my house. This is how much the community appreciated Torah. Because of that, it became a huge Torah center. Really a huge Torah center. One of the places, later on, of course, at the time of Rabbi Chaim Palachi, he had a kehillah called Bet Hillel, name of one of the Gvirim there. He donated this shul, which Rabbi Chaim Palachi made into his yeshiva as well. Later on, they call it La Kehillah de Palachi, the Kehillah of Palachi, but that was the name of the place is Bet Hillel, and that's where they learned and davened, and there were many of them. It wasn't in the format of Eastern European yeshivot that were modeled after different things, which we're not going to get into it now. However, there were a lot of them, and they learned all over the place. You could learn a lot about the Jewish life there from the takanot, from the decrees that the rabbis had put into place. For example, during the time of Rav Chaim Palachi, they made a takana that a father, they had to live. It wasn't like today, you had to go to school until, forever and ever and so on. A father is not allowed to take his son out of school to go to work unless the son knows all the tefillot by heart, including Rosh Chodesh, Shabbat, and Yamim Tovim. You have to know it. The Shira of Ha'azinu was mandatory to learn. They said that you should learn this Shira, so they would learn. So these are little kids. These are little kids. Even later on, my father learned in Talmud Torah over there. Moshe Bouton was the head of the Talmud Torah, but that was towards the end of it already. There was like nothing left. But it was unthinkable. Even during modern era, after the revolution of the Turks, when the young Turks took over, secularism took over the Ottoman Empire, Jews were very respectful of their tradition, of who they are, even if those who weren't keeping Shabbat would never dare even to smoke a cigarette in the Jewish neighborhood. They will go outside of the Jewish neighborhood to smoke. It was an unbelievable place of Torah, and it's just amazing to me that nobody really knows about anything about it. I have books at home with pictures of the shuls. It's amazing. Amazing. There's so much full with character and worth, even though there are hardly any people there left. Not like today, our shuls look like, I don't know what they look like. They don't look like shuls. Cold. In Izmir in 1657, there was a first Jewish printing house, which of course created more to the glory of the city, because you could publish a lot of Torah. And a lot of books were published in Izmir. 1657, they already had a full-fledged printing house, which was quite big. Of course, we can't talk about Izmir without mentioning Mr. Shabbatai Tzvi, good old Shabzi, right? 1622 to 1676. Just like any other false Messiah that claims that he came, as they say, the Messiah is always coming. the false Messiah already came, right? And he was one of the Talmidim of Rav Yosef Iskapa. He was a big Talmid Chacham also. Again, at a certain point, he diverted. He decided that he knows enough. He doesn't need a Rebbe, right? So he left his Rebbe, and goodbye and good luck. Look what happened with him. You know, he met some lunatic by the name of Natan Azati, Natan from Gaza. All the proud cast from Gaza. He told him, "You Mashiach." He says, "Ah, no, fits me. Mekanta, okay, I'm Mashiach." Big balagan happened. To the great surprise, once you learn about this, and if you're truthful, you would know that the influence of Shabtai Tzvi was greater in Eastern Europe than it was actually in Izmir. There was a big machloket between Rav Aaron Lafafa and Rav Ben Benisti about that. They were fighting, they had to leave, and so on and so forth. But there was he was mistaken with the praot of Tach v'Tach, like anything like this, let's leave us alone, let's just do what we need to do, and so on and so forth. A lot of people live, Rav Shlomo Al-Ghazi lived, he was a tremendous Talmid Chacham, a big Mekubal, and of course after Shabtai Tzvi became a Muslim, you know the story. The Sultan had a Jewish doctor. And the doctor said to him, listen, do you want another problem with somebody who claimed it was Mashiach? It happened before. Tell him either death or conversion to Islam. So he brought Shabtai Tzvi. Shabtai Tzvi says, of course I'll convert, no problem. And of course he makes some kind of like a Kabbalistic excuse for that, to take the, blah, 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 blah. And that was the end of the story. Most of the people in Izmir were traders. They were agents because they were doing trade business. There were agents for companies, representative of companies from Europe. Through the end of the Silk Road, the Silk Road had two heads. One came from China, Mongolia, through the Gobi Desert to Uzbekistan, down to Turkey, from there to Izmir, because of its proximity. That's why Izmir had close ties with Venice and other places like that. So there were agents of companies like that, silk, spices, and so on and so forth, food. There were a lot of interpreters there. Jews always knew a lot of languages. My grandfather, Alav Shalom, spoke about 6 different languages. He was an old guy. I mean, it's just amazing how they were. They had to do it. They had to do it. A lot of them were, and a lot of people just had a job. They were working. They were craftsmen and smiths and so on and so forth. They had great ties with Jews, of course. It's the Jewish mafia, the quote unquote. They worked with Jews and connections with people from Persia, from what we call today Iran, but it was really Persia, Paras, from Syria, and they had connection with people all the way up to the west, to France, to Italy, and so on and so forth. In 1688, there was a huge earthquake that destroyed basically the whole entire city, and about 400 Jews died there. One of them was the chief rabbi, Aaron ben Chaim. He died also in that earthquake. Let's talk a little bit about, let's stop for today. Tomorrow, 18th and 19th century.